Hello and welcome to this Clearing and Results Day webinar featuring 5 universities in Wales. So it's a great opportunity as well to find out more about studying in Wales. My name is John Cheek. I'm the founder and director of UniTasterDays, and it's my job to introduce the event. So I'll introduce our speakers, introduce the topics we're going to be talking about during the event, and as well as that, give you more information about the institutions that are joining us as well. And with that, I'm going to share my slides and get on with the rest of the session. Fantastic. Well, the universities that are joining us today are Bangor University, Wrexham Glyndwr University, the University of Wales, Trinity St David, Cardiff Metropolitan University, and the University of South Wales. And this event is delivered in collaboration with the fantastic team at Helloa, and all institutions that are present this evening are all Helloa members. In terms of what we're going to cover, you're going to see on the slide just here what we're going to do during this evening. So the first bit is my bit. That's just introducing the evening, letting you know what you're going to hear about, letting you know a bit about the speakers, letting you know a bit about the universities as well. And then we're going to move on and actually hear a little bit more about the universities. So each speaker is going to deliver a 2-minute introduction to their university, including where it is and more information about what they do. And then we're going to hear from Rebecca Bowen from the University of South Wales with a session looking at what Clearing and Clearing Plus is, to give you a guide of what you might expect if you do need to use the clearing service. We're then going to look at what to expect on Results Day. And rather than university practitioners delivering that session, we're really fortunate to be joined by Lucy and Nia. Lucy from Wrexham Glyndwr University and Nia from Cardiff Metropolitan University, because they're current students at university. So they're going to give you their experience of Results Day from their student perspective. We're then going to hear from Katie and Nia again, but this time talking about mental health and wellbeing at university, of course, with Results Day in mind. We're then going to move on and hear about the biggest barrier to university, which is student finance. So we're going to hear from Nhs from Bangor University with information about student finance for students outside Wales. And then Adele from Wrexham Glyndwr University with information on student finance for students in Wales. And you'll notice the final part of the event will actually be for students that are based in Wales. So that's Adele's session looking at student finance in Wales. But also, last but not least, we're going to hear from Nhs from the University of Wales, Trinity St David, with a guide to actually studying in Wales, but having sessions delivered in Welsh. So this will be a Welsh language session right at the end with information on Nhs in terms of courses you can study at Wales that are delivered in the Welsh language. You might now be thinking, well, you've heard that the universities that are present. What you might now be thinking is actually what subjects do they cover? And this slide and the next slide should be pretty handy for you, because this is over 2 slides where I've listed the different universities that are featuring today. So that's Bangor University, Cardiff Metropolitan, Wrexham Glyndwr University, University of South Wales, and the University of Wales, Trinity St David. But then on the left-hand side, we've got the subjects, different subjects that might be offered by the institutions. So for example, you can look at art, media and design and see that there's green highlights for all of the universities, and therefore all the universities present today do offer that subject area. And then you can move on to the next one and do the same. So red means they don't offer that subject area, green means they do. And it just means you can have a little grasp of what universities offer the subject you're interested in, which again, when it comes to Results Day and clearing potentially, will really help you. And I'll just give you 5 seconds to have a look at that, and then I'll move on to the second one. I'm just going to move on now to page 2. And again, you've got subjects on the left-hand side and then the universities at the top. And again, green is, yes, they do offer it. Red is no, they don't. And if there's text in there, it means they do offer some subjects within that subject area. And I'll just give you 10 seconds to have a look at this as well. Another really useful resource is the University Ready resource. And I wanted to give a quick shout out to that, which is accessible at openlearn.com/university-ready. And there's lots of resources on this website that will support you if you are considering studying in Wales. So for example, you've got campus tours there, you've got taster lectures, you've got some wellbeing tips as well, but it is focusing on studying in Wales. So it features multiple universities in Wales, and it will just be a really useful website for you after this session, assuming you are interested in studying Wales. And that's just openlearn.com/university-ready, and that should be pretty handy for you. But in terms of my introduction, you can see it's been marked green, so that means I've finished it. So now we're going to move on in terms of the rest of the session. So if I can now introduce Rebecca Bowen, joining us from the University of South Wales for a session looking at what is clearing and what is clearing plus. And with that, Rebecca, I'll pass to you, please.
So I've got about 10 minutes to talk to you about clearing and clearing plus. You'll have heard the word clearing many times this evening already. So I'm going to attempt to answer a couple of questions about clearing. We've obviously got some representatives from all the universities on the chat as well. So if you've got any questions during the session or at the end, please feel free to get in touch if you need to. So we're going to answer 3 key questions. What is clearing? Pretty important one. What is clearing plus? If you might have heard about it, but it's not something that's been around that long. So just to give you a bit more information about clearing plus, and who is eligible for clearing. So clearing opens on the 5th of July, which some people, I think there's a bit of a misconception that they think it opens when the results come out, but actually clearing's been open for about a month now. So if you are exploring your options, if you want to explore your options ahead of receiving your results, then you are able to do so. Those clearing vacancies are being advertised now, so you can get a bit of a head start on that research. It is fair to say that most of the activities happen on results day and after results day, and the time after results day, when students know what they've achieved and then know what they might want to do in terms of next steps. The process of clearing is a pretty simple one. It matches applicants, students like yourselves, who are eligible with courses that have spaces available. So where universities have vacancies available on their courses, they will advertise those vacancies, and students are able to apply for those vacancies with the grades they've got. I think it's fair to say that clearing used to have a little bit of a negative stigma attached to it around students who perhaps hadn't done as well as they'd expected, and then universities offering whatever was left. I've worked in student recruitment for nearly 13 years now, and clearing has changed significantly, particularly over the last 6 or 7 years, where clearing is really offering students a real option, and lots of opportunities available for students regardless of what grades they've got, and certainly the opportunity to change your mind if you wish to do so, or obviously stick with the choice that you've already made. So definitely lots and lots of opportunities available, and we've heard several times this evening how important it is to get in touch with universities, to pick up the phone, to get on live chat. Please get in touch with universities if you're not sure about something, or if you need more information. They'll be more than happy to help. In terms of Clearing Plus, as I mentioned, this is a fairly new process, a fairly new programme that's become available. So for students who perhaps have made an application that's been unsuccessful based on the grades that they've got, or students who are applying directly to clearing, so perhaps haven't made an application at all this cycle, haven't made a UCAS application, but want to apply for a place during the clearing period. UCAS will use Clearing Plus. Essentially, UCAS suggests courses and universities that might be of interest, and that'll be based on a number of different things. It might be the universities that you've applied to previously, it might be any sort of preferences you've shared with UCAS in terms of courses, in terms of universities. So UCAS will use that information and make some recommendations to you about possible courses and possible universities. In your UCAS track, you'll see something that says see matches, view matches, and then you'll be able to have a look at the courses and the universities that you've been matched with based on your preferences, your grades, etc. It's then over to you to express an interest. There's no obligation to do so, but if you have a look at those matches that have been made for you, you can express an interest in those courses, in those universities, and universities will get back in touch with you. So you're essentially consenting then for universities to contact you with more information. Obviously, this depends if they have spaces available. So things can change quite quickly in terms of spaces and things during the clearing and results period for some courses and for some universities. But if you express that interest, then universities will get back in touch with you. So essentially, Clearing Plus does a bit of the work for you in terms of your research. So it cuts down on a little bit of the research that's required. In terms of eligibility then for clearing, students who are eligible for clearing either don't have any university offers, so perhaps haven't got the grades required for their firm choice or their insurance choice university. It might be that the student has declined their offers either prior to results day or actually on results day or around results day, choose to decline the offers that they've already had and have a look at other options. or students are also eligible for clearing if they haven't applied previously. And I think that's a really important one, because we know the students have been a bit more hesitant in the current circumstances and perhaps haven't made that university application yet. And just to emphasise that it isn't too late. There's still an opportunity to apply to any of the universities on the call today, or any other universities for that matter, even if you haven't yet made an application. It's definitely not too late. In terms of applying for a course, you need to find a suitable course, and all of the clearing vacancies will be advertised on individual university websites, and they're also advertised on the UCAS website as well. So you need to find a course that will be suitable for you, and not just suitable in terms of the grades that you've got, so matching the grades with the grades that are being asked for by this course, but also other things that are important to you in terms of course content. We've heard about work placements and those kind of things. Might be the location, accommodation, all of those things that you need to consider, that get considered when you make a decision about a university course or a university itself. Contact the university. I think you'll hear that several times before the end of this session. Get in touch with the university. There's no question too small. There are no stupid questions. Pick up the phone, get on live chat, and ask those questions to get answers to the things that you're not sure about. This is a big decision, and we know that, so we want to make sure that we're giving you as much information as possible to make that decision. So once you've made an application, the university will consider that application and then make a decision as to whether to offer you a place or not. And if they offer you a place, obviously it's up to you to decide then whether you want to accept that place. If they don't offer you a place, then there's an opportunity to explore other options which will be available to you in clearing. Just a couple of top tips, and I'm sure these will be echoed by all of the presenters on the call today. It is important to talk to family, friends, and seek advice from your school or college. You've got experienced teachers, experienced staff at school or college who have seen huge numbers of students go through this process. So get in touch with staff if you're not sure about something, and talking to family and friends is really important. Ultimately, though, it does have to be your decision. If you're thinking about going to university for the next 3 or 4 years, it does have to be something that you're going to be happy with, and that you're making the right choice for you. I'm not going to say this, sort of hammer this point home again, but talking to universities is really, really important. We're all here, we're all happy to help. No silly questions, please get in touch. It's a really good idea to have all your information to hand. So things like your UCAS personal ID, if you've applied via UCAS, we can find you on our systems really quickly then, and the grades that you've got to hand, and any other information that you think will be useful. It's important to be flexible. As I've mentioned, there's lots and lots of opportunities out there. You might be thinking about a certain course, or you might have a certain course in mind, and you might need to adjust your options slightly or have a look at alternatives. So be as flexible as possible, but making sure that you get that outcome that you want in terms of course and university. If you can attend a clearing event, either virtually or in person, I'd encourage you to do so. And particularly if you haven't perhaps had many dealings with that university previously, it's a really good idea to attend those clearing events and get those questions answered, get a real sense of what the university is, who the staff are, and what it'd be like to be a student there. It's really easy for all of us on this call to say not to panic. We've all been there ourselves around results day and clearing and university places. It is a stressful time, but I would try and encourage you not to panic. As I've said, there's lots and lots of options out there. So if you haven't quite got the grades that you required for the course that you really wanted to go to, and you're having to explore other options, there are certainly options out there for you for students who want to go to university in September. And obviously, it's maybe a little bit further down the line, but once that place is confirmed, it's time to start getting excited about life as a student, and what that might look like for you, and obviously the next 3 or 4 years of your life as a university student. So lots of things, stressful time, but lots of things to look forward to and lots of things to be positive about as well. Diolch yn fawr iawn for joining the session. Thank you very much. We really appreciate you tuning in. And you can see more information there about South Wales, University of South Wales clearing vacancies on our clearing hotline. Diolch. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. A brilliant session to start looking at what clearing is and what clearing plus is as well. And one little bit that not add, because that was a fantastic session, just a perspective that I could add to Rebecca's session is I've worked previously at 3 universities and been involved with 3 universities in terms of clearing. And you, as Rebecca said, you're just going to speak to some fantastic people there that want you to make really good decisions. So I know, as Rebecca said, you're going to panic because it might not be a scenario that you want or expected, but you will speak to people that are tremendously helpful and they want you to make really good decisions. And to give us a really good link to that, if I can now pass things over to Lucy first and then Nia afterwards, just for a student perspective, because one thing when we were working on this event and what to include, we wanted to include is actually a session about what to expect on results day. But rather than us as universities saying what to expect from results day, we thought it'd be really nice if you actually heard from some students that have previously been involved in results day. So that's Lucy and Nia. Lucy is joining us from Wrexham Glyndwr University and Nia from Cardiff Metropolitan University. But Lucy, if I can pass to you, please, for a perspective of what to expect on results day with clearing in mind.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lucy and I study history at Wrexham Glyndwr University. Today I will be talking about my personal experience of what clearing was like and what happened throughout the day. And hopefully by the end of this presentation, you will feel a bit better about your upcoming results day and a weight would be lifted off your shoulders. So what is results day like? I think for everyone, it is very clear. As you can imagine, results day is incredibly stressful for everyone, students, UCAS and teachers included. But on my results day, I think what teachers tend to forget about is that there are other options for students who didn't get into their university or did miss the UCAS points or did miss the grades. But if they don't tell you that doesn't mean that you should just go and give up. You do have an opportunity to go and talk to the UCAS clearing. Also, you can't let those results beat you down on results day. I shed an ocean of tears. I cried. And that is to be expected, but you can't beat yourself up about your results. And yet, I didn't get the results for my first option or my second option. I got sent through clearing, and I'm here at Wrexham Glyndwr University. I also work as a cover supervisor in high schools, and so nothing can limit to what you can actually go and do. Don't let those grades limit for what you want to go and do, what you want to pursue in your life. But clearing is an option for all students if they don't get their first or second choices. So what might the day look like for me? I remember it very vividly. I got my results at 6 o'clock in the morning. So despite what people may say, UCAS do open at 6 o'clock, not 7. But sadly, of course, I didn't get into my first or second choice. But coincidentally, I think that is also the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because I don't regret a single thing about going to Glyndwr. And if anything, I think I've turned out better for it. You can choose to get sent through clearing. And at the end of the day, it is your choice if you do want to go and do it or not. So, but I do think it is worth it, because there potentially could be courses out there that you may want to go and do, or you may want to explore your options as well. So I think it is worth it. But again, it is up to you at the end of the day. But UCAS on results day is incredibly busy, and they will try and do your very best to try and help you. But I called UCAS at 9 o'clock. I had a McDonald's breakfast, called them in the morning, and I gave my grades, I gave my personal statements in, and they gave me a list of universities that could potentially take me on, defining by what my grades were. So I got given the list, I picked Glyndwr, and then throughout that whole morning after 9 o'clock, I was being updated. So UCAS called me back, I think around 3 times, just to tell me how things were getting on. By 11 o'clock, I got updated saying that the lecturers at the university were looking over my personal statement and considering my options. Then around 12 o'clock, I got an update on UCAS saying that they did give me an offer, and I can tell you I did not hit that button fast enough. I hit it immediately, and then I found out I got into the university, my life changed forever, and I met the most amazing people. And I think it's something that I will cherish forever, despite being in a pandemic. It's something that I love. But I am going to give you a few tips. So do remember, try not to be hard on yourself. It's an emotional day. You put so much up to it, but make sure that you did your best, and you can't change anything at that point. And make sure you have a good support system around you. So my support system was my sister, because she was a student as well. She's a couple years older than me, but she was at university. So she did help me throughout the course. So that support system could be your family, your friends, or your teachers. So just make sure you have people to talk to if you want to talk to someone as well. But you can also talk to the university if you're feeling a bit scared or you have second thoughts. You can always talk to them. Go and use the live chat or do anything like that that can give you some relief. But when looking at universities, you have to consider so many things. So do you need accommodation going to that university? Could you potentially travel to university? And you also need to reapply for your student finance when you go into clearing. And if you do get into the university, you need to go and reapply. It takes about 8 weeks for them to process the whole application, but normally by the time you get to university, they've completed all of it and they've done it all for you. Last but not least, overall, I was thankful that I was being kept up to date throughout the whole day. They called me, they emailed me, they texted me. And if anything changed, they did it all straight away. And communication is key for your clearing experience and your clearing process. But also don't be scared to go and pick up that phone either. It is your choice and it is your grades and your university and your degree. So you can go and pick up that phone and don't be afraid to say, hey, I need an update. Please tell me what's going on. So I hope I covered a couple of things, but I wish everyone good luck and thank you so much. And either which way, I'm proud of all of you. Thank you.
Lucy, thank you. That was absolutely lovely. And who'd have thought, if someone tapped you on your shoulder, Lucy, and said that in the years ahead, you're going to be featuring in a live event and a video that's about clearing that's going to be sent to thousands of people and you're going to have a brilliant time at university. I think you'd be mega proud of yourself. So big thank you, Lucy, joining us from Wrexham Glyndwr University. Nia, if you don't mind, if I can put you on the spot. So we're also joined today by Nia, who's going to do a session with Katie later on. But Nia, if I could put you on the spot, and just as a perspective, also as a current student at university, of how you found results day, do you mind sharing with us a bit of information?
Yeah, that's fine. For results day, I think for me, I like to plan ahead. So I think having those different set plans, so I knew what I was going to do with whatever the circumstance or outcome I had. So I think if I got the results I wanted and I got into the uni I did, then I had a plan set out ready and the steps I needed to do to follow that to get in and everything. And then I think having my backup plan, so like knowing the clearing number, knowing the number of the universities that I looked at if I wanted to get into them, I think that really did help and settled my nerves, because I knew then whatever happened, I was in a good position to go to uni and get onto a course I was really interested in.
Yeah, thank you so much. Just brilliant, Lucy and Nia. It's great to get a perspective from students in terms of results day, because it's you that have been through it, and as university practitioners and me as a member of university staff, I can talk about it, but hearing stuff from you is absolutely wonderful. So big thank you again to Lucy and Nia. And if I can now introduce our next session, and that's actually going to look at your mental health and well-being with results day in mind, because you've got a very stressful time ahead in terms of results day, which might lead to clearing, might not lead to clearing. And with that, Katie and Nia are going to provide some really useful advice to set you up for that. So Katie, if I can pass to you, please.
Thank you so much, John, and thank you, Nia, for kind of that advice, which I guess really links to kind of what we're about to talk about. Obviously, results day is super nerve-wracking, and we're not here as kind of experts at all. We're just here to kind of share some advice and guidance about hopefully protecting your sort of mental health and well-being over the next couple of weeks and months, to be honest, because it's not just results day. Obviously, it's starting university, which can also be quite nerve-wracking as well. And so hopefully we're going to give you a little bit of advice in terms of different strategies you can put in place from my perspective. And then Nia's going to talk to you as a sort of just completed her first year of university, obviously during a pandemic as well. And so actually how she maintained her sort of well-being at university. As you can see, the pictures here, These are both of us in our happy places. So Nia likes to play netball, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And this is me on Aberystwyth Beach, actually. Very windy, but the beach is my happy place. That's where I go for kind of to blow off some steam, just to, literally with the wind here, and just to kind of relax a little bit. So that's what I like to do to kind of calm myself down. But as I said, results day and sort of starting university, that process of starting university is nerve-wracking. And it's thinking about actually how you can protect your kind of selves, different ideas about what you could do to sort of help you over the next couple of weeks and months. And so what we've got is a couple of strategies that kind of we use, but kind of professionals use within sort of mental health and wellbeing. But you don't need to be a kind of qualified professional to do this. This is just a way of kind of getting your thoughts out there. So this is what's known as a control circle. And basically on a piece of paper, on a Word document, however you want to do, you can do it pen and paper, you could do all the Sharpies in the world if you want to make it nice and colourful. And so what you can do is you can pop this little circle down on paper. And what you can do in the circle is you write down what you can control. And so thinking with kind of results day in mind, understanding results day and clearing is one of those things that you can control. As Rebecca mentioned, as Nia mentioned, it's about thinking about what your opportunities are, researching those clearing options, understanding actually what is going to happen on results day. What time are you going to find out whether you are into university? What time are you going to find out whether, what your results are? But really researching those options, having a list of universities that are ones that you want to go to. You may or may not know that there's over 395 providers of higher education within the UK. And so you're not going to want to phone all 395 universities. And so knowing what it is that you, who it is that you want to speak to and the clearing numbers that you want to speak to is a really good way of actually kind of planning and just thinking, actually, that is something I can control. I can kind of shortlist my options, come up with the kind of clearing numbers and the advice line numbers. So I'm ready to call them should I need to. With regards to kind of starting university, again, things that you can control, planning a packing list. You know, how many towels are you going to take? That was certainly something that I came up with. I ended up taking about 15 towels. I don't know why, there's only one of me. But, starting to think about actually realistically, what do I want to take, from home to university to make it a home from home and make myself settle in that little bit better if you are looking to move away from home. And also thinking about the social activities that you want to get involved in at university. There's a lot of things to do at university, as Nia will talk about a little bit later on. But start thinking about, is there sports that you want to do? Is there particular societies that you want to do? And start looking at what those options are. So within that circle, that is what you can control. That is the kind of things that you can do over the next couple of weeks to kind of control your preparation and potentially your anxiety levels for kind of results day and then further on into starting university. Outside of that circle then is what you can't control. You can't control your results now. You've done all you can. You've done all your kind of assignments. You've done those kind of school-based exams or college-based exams that are going to give you those results. It's just a case of waiting for those results to come in now. We can't make a difference to them anymore. So it's out of your control. Don't stress about it, okay? You can't do anything more. You've done all that you can, and the results will reflect on the effort that you've put in as well. You can't control if your friends don't get into university. I know it's kind of heartbreaking and you'll be there to support your friends. But at the end of the day, as the other speakers today have mentioned, there are options. Clearing is there for you and for those friends that maybe don't get into university to help you get into a different course, maybe one that you've not considered before, or one at a slightly different university. You can't control that everyone's going to like you. Certainly that's something, just general life advice. But at university, you will meet like-minded people, whether that's through sports and societies, through your course, or through maybe kind of extracurricular activities that you do. But not everyone is going to like you. It's about looking for those like-minded people and accepting that actually not everyone is going to like you, but you will find friends for life. And certainly I have during my time at university. And then finally, restrictions. I think this is a word that we've all been sort of stuck with, and definitely one that's out of our control. And it's something that causes me anxiety, in terms of what the restrictions are going to be. We can't control what COVID restrictions are going to be. You know, obviously the pandemic is still going on with restrictions easing. It's about making the most of the opportunities that we have with the restrictions that are given. And hopefully Nia's advice in a second will give you a little bit of perspective of actually how to make the most of things, even when kind of life is a little bit restricted. Now, when you're kind of planning your time and kind of planning what to do for results day and planning to kind of prep for starting university, I really like to-do lists. Okay, I love a list. But sometimes actually when there's a lot of things on that list, it can get a bit overwhelming and you're thinking, actually, I've got a lot to do here. And it's starting to think about actually, how do we prioritize that list? How do we order it in terms of what to do first? So we've come up with a bit of a list between myself and Nia about things that you need to be doing over the next couple of weeks and months to prepare you for results day and prepare you for starting university. Now that list looks quite kind of maybe a little bit overwhelming. And when you consider the, you know, starting university, but also all the social activities that you're still doing at the moment, maybe you've got some holidays booked. And so actually sort it out into this little grid. Start thinking actually, okay, of that list, what is really urgent and important? What do I need to prioritize as first? What's still important, but maybe not as urgent, maybe not as time pressing? What's important? And maybe actually off that list, what's not so important? What does it not so matter if I don't do it straight away? And so off that list, we've sorted it out for you. For example, understanding results day. It's just around the corner, whether you're watching it today live, it's next week, whether you're kind of watching it in the build up to, obviously results day is looming. And so understanding what's going to happen on results day is really, really essential. It will help you be prepared. Understanding what's going to happen in terms of when you get your results and kind of the opportunities for you with regards to clearing and how Clearing Plus works as well. Clearing research as well. As I said, finding out those universities that you're interested in, the course areas that you're interested in, and those advice line numbers as well. Get a list together, Word document on paper, don't care, get that research done, okay? Because it will really help you when it comes to kind of easing the sort of stress and anxiety that can be associated with results day. You know what's happening, you know what interested universities you're interested in, which you can give a call if you need to. So they're the very urgent, they are ones that are time pressing and they're important to do. Now we're going to move on to the very important, but maybe not as time pressing, not as urgent as the others. Setting up a student bank account. Now this is essential for when you start university because a student bank account can help support you whilst at university. It's also where things like your student loan can be sent to, but also things like your budgeting that you can do. So maybe you're going to set yourself a weekly allowance for spending. Setting up this student bank account is really important, but it's not as urgent as maybe doing the research is, because you won't be able to set up a student bank account until you've got student status confirmed, which is obviously after results day. And therefore, it's not as urgent as those other ones. Likewise, confirmation paperwork for university, so things like confirming your accommodation, your enrolment, that sort of thing. Again, it's not until you've got your results that you're able to do that sort of work. So it's still important to do, but maybe not as urgent as the other ones that I mentioned. Important. Arranging a leaving party with your friends. Now, obviously, your friends from home are potentially going off all over the UK. And so you want to make sure that, you know, you've got that kind of final night out, final picnic in the park, whatever it is, that you've got that moment to kind of really accept that your friendship is going to be that long distance sort of relationship over the next couple of years. But show that it's important. You know, you want to say goodbye and you want to kind of really enhance that friendship and kind of keep that going over the next couple of years. Starting packing, it's important. You need to have those suitcases ready so that if you are moving away from home, you know exactly what it is that you are taking with you. And then the less important things, prep reading for starting university. Now, my university colleagues will probably kill me for saying this, but you will receive kind of emails from lecturers and from your course leaders to give you some kind of reading materials for starting university. If you've got time, do it. If you haven't, you've still got time when you start in Freshers Week to do that prep reading. It's not the most important thing out of this list. And so that's why we're putting it in this box. Yes, it's good to do. And if you have time and if you want to spend a bit of bedtime reading up on some stuff ready for university, absolutely do it. Sorting the freshers activities that you want to attend. Again, you'll have Freshers Week, which will give you lots of opportunity to get involved and get stuck in. So if things are a bit overwhelming, don't worry about this until you get to university. Likewise, researching those social activities to do at university. Don't stress too much, because again, during Freshers Week, there will be opportunities to experience and also sign up to the different societies and sports available to you. So as you can see, we've taken that list that maybe looks a little bit too kind of overwhelming, and we've boxed it off into different boxes. You can take a box a day at a time, maybe 2 days per box, and it makes it that little bit more controllable and kind of eases the pressure on it as well. I'm going to hand to Nhs now, who's going to talk a little bit about her time at university and actually how she sort of managed her well-being while she was at university.
Hi, I'll just start with basically, like, for me, it really helped setting a routine. I went away for college, so I kind of had like a pre-uni experience, which kind of did me really well, because I was able to test things out before I actually went away, and I really focused on, you know, getting my degree and everything. But I would totally recommend setting a routine. Just make sure like everything's balanced, that you have time to, you know, really give effort in your academics, but then also have that social side of it, so you can go out with your friends, go out clubbing and everything. But I think definitely for me as well, I play netball to a high level, so I think really getting that routine, like pinpoint, was really vital for making sure that I was happy with everything I was doing. Definitely with the pandemic this year as well, I think being stuck inside my room doing a lot of my lectures, it really helped, like getting outside, and me and my roommates would go out and we'd go for a walk, or we'd go somewhere and, you know, play rounders or something. But I think that really helped, because I was staying active, but I was also making sure I was hanging out with my friends and everything. On top of that, joining the netball team with Cardiff Met was really a really good experience. You open up to new people, you get to find people like-minded to you, which is really enjoyable as well, because you get to find people who have the same interests, which you can't really do outside of uni. And I think just having that big atmosphere, and there's like combined different societies, it really helps just find loads of different things you can be interested in, but find new hobbies as well. With academic then, I think really focusing on the quality of your work over quantity will be a massive game changer, because I think you have so much reading to do. I think for me, instead of saying I was going to do 2 hours of revision, and instead saying, right, I'm going to do the set tasks to the best of my ability, I think that really helped me achieve high grades at uni. And the change from doing exam-based things to writing essays, focusing on the quality of my work was a really vital change. And then again, making sure you balance your schedule, but like getting to know yourself, so you know when you're pushing yourself too hard and need to step back, just to make sure you don't burn out and you actually enjoy uni. I think those are really good points and key things that I focus on definitely through my first year, and I will be focusing on in my second year as well.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Nhs. It's really great to kind of get an insight into how you managed it. And obviously during a pandemic, we've all had to kind of readjust our routine as well. So it's brilliant that even though you started university, which is very different, you've still been able to put different strategies in place to kind of help you manage that as well. So thank you so much. Just finally then to finish, to say that, you know, it's not all on you. You know, if you are struggling, there is opportunities for you to kind of reach out and to get that support at university. Obviously, we're from Cardiff Met, but this is very much a kind of university-wide policy, in that there are student services kind of available to support you. So if you have a disability or kind of long-term mental health condition or a recent mental health condition, you can absolutely reach out for that support through student services. It might be sort of additional funding and additional access and kind of technology that you need from a disability perspective. For example, if you're dyslexic, you can get extra support there. If you maybe need some sort of counselling, then it might be that they're able to kind of offer that support as well. And so there's lots of opportunities for you, either reaching out directly through student services. You'll also have what's known as a tutor. This is an academic member of staff who is there to support you at university from an academic perspective with regards to the assignments that you have, but also with regards to your kind of mental health and well-being as well. And they're there really to signpost you to the best kind of services that are available to you. And so they're there to check in on you. At Cardiff Met, they check in sort of every term, at least every term, but they also operate an open door policy as well. So you can book appointments with them to kind of meet with them should you need to. As we've mentioned, your friends do really become your lifeline, both your friends from home currently, but also your friends when you get to university as well. And if you are kind of having a bit of a difficult time, maybe reach out to maybe those that are further away or those that are kind of on your course or in a society, because you never know, they might be feeling the same. Certainly when I moved from Wolverhampton to Cardiff Met to study a couple of years ago, I really struggled with kind of moving away from home, and I bonded with my friend from Leicester, and we were inseparable for the entire 3 years of our time at university as well. And it's actually from kind of reaching out, and we were both kind of crying in our halls of residence on the first day, really missing home. And, you know, we just went and we sat and we cried together. And that was how we kind of got each other through it, just by reaching out at that time. But also your family and your kind of support network that you have around you at the moment. By all means, reach out to those. They can get in touch with the university if there is cause for concern too. But you do have a support network around you, both in the university and your current support network as well. They don't kind of go away. They're there to support you as well. So I hope that's kind of put your mind at ease with regards to kind of results day and that kind of initial starting university. Obviously, everyone's going to go through different experiences, particularly during sort of the clearing, the results day, but also then starting university as well. But sort of top tip of advice with regards to kind of results day is doing that preparation, is having that backup plan, is finding out those clearing helpline numbers. Obviously, this is the Cardiff Met one, but do your research, find out the universities that you're interested in and the clearing helpline numbers as well. But all I can say is best of luck. Please don't stress. We are here to help. And I hope that you do reach out should you need to, but best of luck with your results as well.
Thank you very much, Katie. Thank you also, Nhs, both from Cardiff Metropolitan University, 2 excellent sessions looking at such an important area. So a big thank you to Katie, big thank you to Nhs. What we're going to look at now, though, is move on to probably for a lot of students, what is the biggest barrier to university? We did some research at UniTasterDays, and the biggest barrier was student finance. Other organisations like UCAS have done some research as well. And student finance is a huge barrier to university. So we're going to have 2 sessions looking at that subject. One session is going to look at student finance for students outside Wales. And then the second session is going to look at student finance for students actually in Wales. So we're going to go for the session for students outside Wales first, and it's Nhs from Bangor University that's going to deliver that. So just to confirm, we're looking at student finance for students outside Wales. And with that, Nhs, I'll pass things over to you, please.
Great, thanks very much. So yeah, just like to say as well, some really great information and advice from Katie and Nhs in that session, I think just for anyone, not just people thinking about going to university from clearing. So yeah, I'm Nhs and I'm going to be telling you a bit about student finance, like John was saying, for the students living outside of Wales, because we've got different systems. And as he's just mentioned as well, it is a topic where, I mean, I could talk about finance for hours because we have so many people asking so many questions about student finance. So I'm going to try and cram the important things into the amount of time that I have, but I do have the websites and things that you can look at afterwards that hopefully if you need to do any extra research or find out any more after today, you've got the information there so you can go and check it out for yourselves. But it is a really important topic. And I think the important thing to tell you, if you are somebody looking at a place in clearing at universities and you haven't started making a student finance application because you weren't sure you were going to go, my advice is to start doing that as soon as possible. And I'll explain a little bit more, like I said, about finance, but when you're filling in this application, they ask you what you think your firm choice is going to be. So even if you don't know which university you want to go to and which course you're going to have a space through clearing, you can still fill in a lot of this application form and start getting it going. And I think that's one of the biggest things in terms of making sure you're prepared from the finance side of things if you're a clearing applicant. So in terms of the funding that we have in the UK, we do have funding that's devolved within 4 different organisations that are responsible for student finance awards. So essentially, as a student, you apply to the organisation that represents you where you live before you start university. So for England, you're looking at Student Finance England. Northern Ireland, it's Student Finance Northern Ireland. And for Scotland, it's the Scottish Award Agency for Scotland. So they all are in charge of the finance for the students. So it's not about where you study when it comes to finance, it's about where you live before you go to university. So I'll show you just like a snapshot of some of the information from those different regions just to give you a better idea. But first of all, though, let's look at the tuition fee side of things. Now, university tuition fees don't just vary between institutions. They can sometimes vary within the institution itself, depending on what subject you're looking at and what course you might be studying. So it's really important for you to do this research and find out for yourself what the tuition fees are going to be for the courses that you're looking at. Now, universities in Wales, slightly different from other places, we can charge up to £9,000 per year. So that's the maximum amount that we would charge as institutions in Wales. Now, in Bangor, we do charge £9,000 for all the courses that we offer. But like I said, you can still find that variation depending on what course you're looking at and which institution in Wales that might be. So eligible students don't have to pay a penny of these tuition fees before they start or whilst they're studying their course. And even if anybody was in the position to be able to put some money towards it, I would recommend that you don't, because basically you're entitled to this tuition fee loan that will cover your tuition fee costs. So it's very simple with your tuition fees. However much your tuition fees costs, that's how much your tuition fee loan will be, and that gets paid directly to the university. So there's no worry about them depositing £9,000 in your bank account every month and every evening and hoping that it makes its way across to the university. It gets paid directly to the university, and however much your course costs, that's how much your tuition fee loan would be. So that's what most people do, is take out this tuition fee loan, and like I said, you don't have to pay a penny before or whilst you're studying at university. Now, obviously, it's a little bit different with your living costs and your maintenance support, because whilst you're a student, you are going to have certain costs. You're going to need financial help with those costs. You're going to need money to live off whilst you're a student. And, even if you were staying at home and going to university, that's the case as well. So what we talk about when we look at student finance in terms of the living costs is means tested student finance for UK students. And we look at something called the taxable income. So any maintenance loans, grants or allowances that are there for you are determined by your taxable household income. So what we're looking at here is if you're classed as a mature student, we're looking at you or your partner's income, or your partner will be when you go to university, I should say. But if you're not a mature student, what we're looking at is your parental income. So that's the income within your household. So if you're living with both parents, it's both their incomes. If you're only living with one parent, it will be their income. But if you do have a step parent living within your household, their income will be taken into account as well. So they don't look at any other family members. It's just those in the parental role. So parents or guardians within the household that is your main household that you're living in. So for those of you starting in September, they go on the full tax year prior to university actually, or the application, for finance actually opening. So for this September, we're looking at the taxable year of 2019 to 2020. So obviously with the pandemic and lots of changes in terms of working practices and people's jobs and furlough and things, there's been a lot of change in terms of people's income. So if your household income has decreased by 15% or more, you can ask for a current year income assessment. And we're probably going to see a lot more of that, like I said, because of the situation. So don't forget, there's a 15% change, and it could be something, for example, like a parent works on commission, or, there's been a bonus or something like that as well. That could change it. So make sure you ask for that current income assessment if that's the case. So what I've got is just tables and just information about the different regions, just to give you an idea. So this is a table for students from England and their maintenance loan entitlement if they're studying away from home but outside of London. So if you're coming from England to study in Wales, this would be the income that you're looking at in terms of the taxable household income in the first column. Will then determine what the maintenance loan is in the second column. So you might be able to have a look at that first column and roughly work out where you are in your household income, and then the middle column see roughly in terms of the maintenance loan that you'll be entitled to. Now, just to tell you about that third column as well, household contribution, you won't ever see that written anywhere, because essentially what this is an assumed contribution. So because of the household income that you have, they assume that this is going to be the contribution outside the maintenance loan that your parents or your partner would make for you whilst you're at university. So you'll never see reference to that anywhere, but that's roughly what they're expecting you to get. So as you can see, as the household income goes higher, the maintenance loan decreases and the household contribution increases. So like I said, you may be able to spot yourself on there and give yourself an idea about the maintenance loan that you might be entitled to. Now, students from Scotland, slightly different. So in that first column, I've got the household income, and again, that's increasing as it's moving down. Now here you have a slightly different system. You have a bursary, which is money that you don't have to repay. So the lower your household income, the higher the bursary. And then the next column is the loan, so that's repayable. And then you've got the total in that last column there. And then for students from Northern Ireland, you can get a maintenance loan of up to £4,840. And there's also a maintenance grant. So this is like the bursary, it's non-repayable, unlike the loan. And that's up to £3,475 if your household income is below £41,065. So like I said, this is just to give you an idea, but you may want to go away and have a look in a bit more detail to find out what you're entitled to. So a bursary or grant is non-repayable. So that's essentially in one way free money, but a loan is something that you would have to repay after you've graduated from university. But the good news is you don't just have to have loans to pay for university and borrow the money. There are bursaries and scholarships available as well. Now, again, these vary between the institutions and their courses, and you can't necessarily go to one website, put your details in, and they go, right, this is what you're entitled to. So you have to be a bit of a detective and do some digging work here. So if you do get any bursaries or scholarships, these are additional to maintenance loans, so they don't get taken into account when deciding how much loan you get to live off from your student finance organisation. And again, it's like free money that doesn't have to be repaid. So I've just got some examples from Bangor just to give you an idea, but like I said, you will have to go out and look for these, and it may be that you're a bit more time pressured if you accept a place through clearing and then have to find out what's available. But each year we give about £3 million of the way in bursaries and scholarships to our students, so new and returning students. There's an awful lot out there for you. So we've got Bangor bursaries, which are means tested. So depending on your household income, you could get £500 or £1,000 from us. There's a carers bursary of £1,000 annually. There's a startup bursaries for first year students who are estranged or students from care. Again, that's £1,000. So this is just fitting certain criteria that you would get this money. And again, it doesn't have to be repaid. Now we do have some scholarships, but for us, you will have missed the deadline for a lot of those scholarships. And again, you'll just have to look at the universities and see what's out there when you decide where to go. But our sports scholarship I've added here and left it there because it's also not just for new students, but it's for returning students as well. So that's up to £3,000 a year available. And like I said, this is just a really small selection. So once you know where you're going, you should really look into the additional finance, because there's a huge amount out there that will really help you out in terms of, you know, like I said, access to free money in one way. Some of the money has to be spent on specific things, like our sports scholarship would have very specific things you have to pay for using that money. But then others is just to help generally with your living costs. So really do look into what might be available from the university you're going to. And there's also additional support for some students. Now, I'm not going to go into this in too much detail, mainly because of time, but if you think that you fit into any of this criteria, then go and find out more. So there's a childcare grant, a parents' learning allowance, and an adult dependence grant if you fall into those categories. Two that maybe more of you might be relevant for you to look at is the Nhs Course Funding. Now, at Bangor, this applies for nursing, midwifery and radiography students, but it could be other courses at some of the other Welsh universities. And essentially, if you come onto one of those courses with us, you can choose to borrow the money from student finance organisation like you would do from any other course, or the other option is to agree to work for NHS Wales for 2 years after you've graduated, and they will then pay your tuition fees for you, and there's a non-repayable bursary to help with your kind of living costs as well. So you can look at those if you think that's some, like I said, some of you might fall into that category. And then the disabled student allowance helps students with any essential costs that you might incur, whether it's from a disability, long-term illness, specific learning difficulty. So again, you need to look into this and make a separate application. This is not a specific amount of money. It's, for example, if you need a scribe to help you in exams, or if you need transport to get around campus, then the additional costs would be covered by the DSA if you fall under what they cover for that. So just to summarise then, variable tuition fees of up to £9,000 for September, no upfront tuition fees payable and a tuition fee loan to cover those costs, a maintenance loan for living costs and potentially grants or bursaries depending where you're coming from. Scholarships and bursaries could be available, and extra financial help for some students as well. So in terms of applying for funding, like I said, if you are thinking of coming through clearing and you haven't made an application, look into making that application now, because it can take a few weeks to get it all sorted. But what Student Finance will do is they'll make sure the minimum amounts is available for you if they don't have time to do the assessments for your particular circumstances. So it's really worth filling this in now. And what they say is put what you think is going to be your firm choice institution, or, you know, the institution you're going to go to, or the course you want to go on to, and then you can always change that once you know exactly exactly what you'll be studying at university. So you can go online to either fill in the application form there, or you can also still download a paper application form. And I've got the different websites there for the different regions, depending where you're looking at. So just to finish off, I just thought I'd give you a few tips on budgeting. Like I said, I'm conscious of time and I could talk a really long time about this. But first things first, know your income. Know what your maintenance loans are going to be, if there's any grants, bursaries, if you've got any savings, if you've got a part-time job with income coming in there with the earnings, if there's parental support, so you know what money you have to live off. Then know your costs, your rent, your halls of residence, get a rough idea in terms of books, equipment, travel costs, your phone contract. So you know what you're getting, you know what your costs are going to be, and then you can start working out a budget. Now, student finance awards are paid in 3 instalments throughout the year, so you can work out a budget for each term, and just be aware terms don't necessarily all fall into the same amount of time, so they can vary in duration. So you may have to kind of change your budget a little bit accordingly. Always pay for the important things up front when you get your loan, for example, your accommodation, so you know that that's then sorted for the rest of the year. Check that your valuables are insured in halls of residence. Now, normally they are. If not, check your parents' policy or the household policy, or see whether you can get them covered on another policy. Consider a part-time job or a summer job if you need some extra cash to help with you whilst you're at university. Now, at Bangor, we do suggest you don't do more than 16 hours a week during term time, because we think anything else can be a bit detrimental to your studies, but there's lots of different opportunities to work as a student. As you've already heard, open a student bank account, check what incentives there might be to do so, and check if you're entitled to an overdraft facility. We don't recommend that you use it as a matter of course, but if you need to, it's often handy to have it there as a backup. And make sure you've always got money before you arrive at university. So your loans and grants usually go into your bank account 3 to 5 days after you've registered, and you may have some costs before you get to university as well that you need to cover. And then finally, the really important thing, if you need any advice or help, like you've heard in all the other sessions, there's loads of people available to help you at universities. So make sure you go to the student money advisor at your university, get advice, because they're there to help you out. And then here are just some really useful websites for you to have a look at. And I have to say, Martin Lewis, Money Saving Expert, great website and great information about student finance on there as well. So when you've got more time to look into it all, have a look at his website. So like I said, I'm hoping that you found that really useful and that it's helped you just give you a snapshot of finance, and you know now where to go if you need to find out more information. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And a brilliant session looking at student finance, which for loads of students is the biggest barrier to university. So just some brilliant advice there. Thank you very much. Our final 2 sessions now are going to be for students that are actually in Wales. So we're going to look at, in a second, Adele's going to present on student finance for students in Wales. And then last but not least, Nhs going to talk about studying in Wales, but actually in the Welsh language. So this is going to be very much the Welsh section of this event. But with that, I'm going to pass now to Adele about student finance for students that are in Wales. Adele, over to you.
So I'm Adele Jones from Wrexham Glyndwr University. I'm a student advisor within the funding and money advice team. So we're going to be touching on finance available if you're living in Wales. So yes, you apply to Student Finance Wales, and here is their website address, www.studentfinancewales.co.uk. The applications for full-time are open in the April of when you come to study. So for 2021, they are open now. We always suggest to students, as Nhs mentioned, that as soon as applications do open, do try and apply as soon as possible. Again, applications can be amended throughout the time, and applications only become active when you become an enrolled student. So the sooner you do it, the more time it has to be assessed and prepared for you to have your finance for when you do come to enroll. So there are 2 main costs whilst studying at university. It's the tuition fees and the living costs. Obviously, the good news is that the financial help is available through Student Finance Wales. So with the tuition fees, there are no upfront fees to pay. Students will be eligible for a tuition fee loan up to the 9,250. It's not means tested, so you will be eligible for that. And this is paid directly to the university on your behalf. So with the living costs, all eligible students now receive the same amount of money to help towards living costs while studying. Support is intended to be equivalent to the national living wage. The two types of support available are maintenance loan and the Welsh Government Learning Grant. The amount of loan available depends on where the student lives and studies. Support for the living costs is paid directly to the student's bank account each term. So that's 3 payments over the year that you can budget for. The Welsh Government Learning Grants don't have to be repaid, whilst maintenance loans are repayable back, but only after the April that you leave university. This will be paid back with your salary, but once you reach the maximum threshold for this. So the Welsh Government Learning Grant, you will receive a £1,000 grant for all eligible students. Any additional grants will be based on the student's household income. Students from households with an income of up to 18,370 will be entitled to the maximum of 12,930. Students from households with an income of up to the 59,200 will be entitled to a partial grant. So this is the financial table. So here we have the living with parents rates, and here is the household income. So dependent on household income will be dependent on grant available and loan available to you to give you the total amount. If you were living away from parents in student accommodation, for example, you would get a slightly higher rate to cover some of these costs. It doesn't cover it all, but you know, you can budget from that and possible parental support as well. And as Nhs said, if you do have a 15 decrease in your household income, you will need to still present the financial income for the year suggested, but again, do a current year income assessment form to state the reduced salaries. So the additional support for the student, you can apply for additional support, one which will be DSA if it's applicable to you, disability or specific learning difficulties. Again, you apply through student finance for this. It is on a separate form. Again, the university do have bursaries. We hold bursaries within our institution, scholarships, hardship funds, and again, we support NHS funding courses as well. Again, ask each university what's on offer to see whether or not it does cater for you, because these are additional support that might make that difference for you to go and study at that institution. If you come from a cared experience background, most universities will have a member of staff who can be contacted before university and whilst you're at university for advice and guidance. Again, we do have a care leavers bursary, and again, just contact institutions to make sure that there is something on offer if this is applicable to you. So the summary of the full-time financial support available is the non-means tested tuition fee loan of up to 9,250, the means and non-means tested maintenance loan and grant. There's extra help for eligible students for DSA, and university bursaries and scholarships, and NHS courses that do offer the additional funding. So the repayment of loans, the student loan received for maintenance and tuition fees will be combined to one amount. You will not have to start paying anything back until you have left your course and you are earning over 27,295 a year, which is current date. The amount you repay will be linked into your income and will be deducted automatically by employees with your national and tax insurance. Anything still outstanding after 30 years will be written off. So it's nice to know that this debt, you know, won't go on forever, suggested. So the good thing about living in Wales, not only is that you do get grants that are non-payable back, but you can, they do offer a partial cancellation of your maintenance loan. So any student that do take out a maintenance loan, and it's still carry on again in 2021, and obviously if it's in other years, you would just need to just confirm this detail as well, that they will give up to 1,500 off their student loan balance to be written off. So we do suggest, when we do give our funding information, that yes, some parents or yourselves might think that you can try and avoid taking on loans, but if that's the case, obviously the loans are there for you to be living off, and it is a repayable rate once you finished your study. But I would definitely consider to take the 1,500 maintenance loan for this, to them to have an offer of the partial cancellation, which you can do sooner after your first year instead of waiting until you do finish your course. But again, go on to the link and find yourself some further information on that. That's another good bonus to be applying through Student Finance Wales.
So last but not least, but actually timed wonderfully, perfectly, is going to be Nhs, who's joining us from the University of Wales, Trinity St David, with a session that's going to be delivered in the Welsh language, that's going to be looking at essentially the courses delivered in Welsh. So Nhs is going to deliver this session in Welsh and talk about actual courses that you can study in Wales that are delivered in Welsh for you. And with that, Nhs, I'll pass things over to you, please.
Yeah, so I will be delivering this session in Welsh, as it is for students studying through the medium of Welsh. So Lyned Dwy o Prifysgol Cymru y Drindod Dewisant. A fel mae'r sleid yn dweud, fi'n mynd i siarad am astudio trwy gyfrwng y Gymraeg yn y Brifysgol. Great. Iawn, so'r prif rhesymau falle am astudio trwy gyfrwng Gymraeg, mae rhai rhesymau lan gyda fi fan hyn, ond mae nifer fawr o rhesymau pam falle chi moyn astudio trwy gyfrwng Gymraeg. I nifer ohonoch chi, falle bod chi wedi mynd trwy'ch addysg chi'n gyfan gwbl trwy gyfrwng y Gymraeg, felly mae'n dewis naturiol iddo chi eisiau gwneud hyn yn y brifysgol hefyd. Mae'n rhoi cyfle iddo chi datblygu a gwella sgiliau iaith hefyd, so datblygu mwy o hyder a unrhyw sgiliau iaith sydd angen arnoch chi yn y dyfodol. Mae nifer fawr o gyrsiau ar gael trwy gyfrwng Gymraeg, yna i siarad mwy amdano rheina mewn dyma bach, a siwr di darganfod rheina. Mae hefyd astudio trwy gyfrwng Gymraeg yn golygu bod gyda chi mwy o amser un gyda darlithwyr hefyd, felly bod maint grwpiau dysgu mynd i fod yn llai o faint, so mae'n rhoi mwy o fanteision iddo chi i siarad gyda eich darlithwyr chi. A hefyd, chi'n gallu edrych ar y pynciau mewn ffyrdd gwahanol hefyd, allwch chi edrych yn nhw ochr Saesneg a ochr Cymraeg, so mae'n rhoi safbwynt gwahanol iddo chi ddysgu hefyd. Fel fi'n gweud, dim ond cwbl bach iawn o rhesymau am astudio trwy gyfrwng Gymraeg o rheina, fi'n siŵr gallwch chi feddwl am llawer mwy hefyd. Falle bod rhai o chi yn poeni bod eich sgiliau iaith chi ddim yn ddigon da. Peidiwch poeni o gwbl am hyn, achos mae lot o gymorth ar gael iddo chi os ych chi am astudio trwy gyfrwng Gymraeg. Neu os ydych chi yn siaradwr Cymraeg a falle yn teimlo ddim digon hyderus i astudio trwy gyfrwng Gymraeg, mae lot o help yn y prifysgolion iddo chi wneud hyn. Hefyd, mae prifysgolion yn cynnwys cwrsiau sydd yn rhannol trwy gyfrwng Gymraeg fyd, so gallwch chi fod yn gwneud cwpl o modilau trwy gyfrwng Gymraeg, jyst er mwyn hybu eich sgiliau iaith chi hefyd. Fel yn gweud, mae lot o gefnogaeth gyda'r prifysgolion, felly chi'n gallu cael cymorth o'r tiwtoriaid personol, hefyd Coleg Cymraeg Cenedlaethol. Ond fe moyn chi edrych ar yr fideo yma yn gloi, achos mae myfyrwraig hyn yn siarad amdano profiadau hi o astudio trwy gyfrwng y Gymraeg.
Fel rhywun sy'n dod o gefndir di Gymraeg, roedd yn awyddus i datblygu fy sgiliau wrth siarad ac ysgrifennu. Dwi'n nabod nifer o fyfyrwyr sydd yn dihyderus wrth defnyddio'r Gymraeg ac felly yn ffeindio Saesneg yn haws, ond y fwyaf byddwch yn ymarfer, y fwy bydd eich sgiliau yn datblygu. Roeddwn yn poeni ychydig wrth ddewis astudio yn y Cymraeg yn y prifysgol, ond dwi'n falch wnes i. Mae llawer o'r gwaith yn ddwyieithog ac felly gallwch datblygu eich sgiliau yn y ddwy iaith. Mae nifer o cymorth ar gael, tiwtor personol, swyddog cangen, ac mae nifer o prifysgolion gyda tiwtor iaith. Dwi'n cwrdd â darlithwyr nifer o weithiau yn ystod y mis.
Iawn, ni wedi sôn tyma bach fyna am y Coleg Cymraeg Cenedlaethol a yr help sydd ar gael os ych chi angen help gyda eich sgiliau iaith chi. Ond hefyd mae'r Coleg Cymraeg Cenedlaethol yn gwneud lot fawr o bethau eraill i myfyrwyr ni. Mae'r ffordd rili da i ffindio cwrsiau sydd ar gael trwy gyfrwng y Gymraeg. Mae gyda nhw chwilotydd cwrsiau, so mae enghraifft ni'n ar y sgrin. Yn y chwilotydd cwrsiau, maen nhw'n dangos y cwrsiau sydd ar gael trwy gyfrwng y Gymraeg, yn rhannol trwy gyfrwng y Gymraeg ac yn gyfan gwbl trwy gyfrwng y Gymraeg. Ar hyn o bryd, mae tua 1,000 o gyrsiau ar gael i ddewis ohono, so mae lot fawr o ddewis i gael. A mae hwn yn cynnwys prifysgolion ar draws Cymru gyfan. So pob prifysgol yng Nghymru sydd yn cynnig cyrsiau cyfrwng Cymraeg, maen nhw ar gael ar y chwilotydd cyrsiau. So mae werth i edrych arno hwnna. Hefyd, os chi'n edrych ar gwefannau prifysgolion i weld pa gyrsiau sydd ar gael trwy gyfrwng Gymraeg, mae hwnna'n syniad da i wneud hefyd. Neu cysylltu gyda'r prifysgol i weld a oes modd i chi astudio trwy gyfrwng Gymraeg. Neu os ych chi yn teimlo bach yn nerfus falle am astudio trwy gyfrwng Gymraeg, os ych chi'n cysylltu gyda ni yn y prifysgolion, ni digon hapus i siarad gyda chi i weld beth sydd allwn ni helpu chi unrhyw ffordd ar hyd y daith yn eich bywyd prifysgol chi hefyd. Felly mae'r chwilotydd cyrsiau fyna. Mae'r Coleg Cymraeg Cenedlaethol hefyd yn cynnig nifer fawr o ysgoloriaethau. Ni wedi clywed sôn am lot o'r ysgoloriaethau sydd ar gael gyda Llunos a Adel yn barod, ond mae werth chi edrych am yr ysgoloriaethau ieithyddol sydd ar gael fyd. Edrychwch ar gwefan y Prifysgol Cymru, y Coleg Cymraeg Cenedlaethol i weld beth sydd nhw ar gael. Fi'n credu gallwch chi dal gwneud cais am yr ysgoloriaeth cymhelliant os ych chi yn dechrau yn Medi 2021. Mae'r ysgoloriaeth cymhelliant yn cynnig 500 o bunnoedd iddo chi y flwyddyn, neu 1,500 dros 2 blynedd i'ch chi'n astudio yn y brifysgol, os ych chi'n astudio 33% neu mwy o'ch cwrs chi trwy gyfrwng Gymraeg. Fel o'n i'n gweud, mae nifer fawr o prifysgolion yn cynnig ysgoloriaethau a bwrsariaeth cyfrwng Cymraeg hefyd. Enghraifft, i ni yn y Drindod Dewi Sant yn cynnig 50 punt am pob 10 credyd i chi'n astudio trwy gyfrwng Gymraeg, a gallwch chi cael hyd at 600 punt y flwyddyn am hyn. A eto, dim rhaid i chi ddangos dim byd am wneud hyn, ond bod chi yn astudio trwy gyfrwng Gymraeg. So mae'n arian ychwanegol jyst am astudio trwy gyfrwng Gymraeg sydd yn gyfle grêt. Fi'n credu bod e'n bwysig hefyd i ni siarad amdano eich bywyd tu fas i'r dosbarth amser chi yn y brifysgol. Felly mae cymdeithasau Cymraeg gyda nifer fawr o brifysgolion. Mae hyd yn oed rhai cymdeithasau Cymraeg gyda prifysgolion yn Lloegr hefyd. So mae'n werth chi edrych i weld beth sydd ar gael. Mae'r Gymdeithas Gymraeg yn cynnig nifer fawr o weithgareddau a digwyddiadau cymdeithasol amrywiol i siwto pob un. Felly mae rhywbeth na i pob un. Mae enghreifftiau gyda ni ar y sgrin fan hyn. Maen nhw'n gwneud pethau fel teithio rygbi rhyngwladol, cystadlaethau chwaraeon, nosweithi allan, eisteddfod rhyngol, lot o fawr o hwyl ysbri. Newch chi ddod i adnabod myfyrwyr eraill o gyrsiau eraill ar draws y brifysgol, a hefyd dod i adnabod myfyrwyr o brifysgolion eraill ar draws Cymru. So mae fe'n gyfle gwych i ddod i adnabod lot fawr o bobl eraill sydd yn siarad Cymraeg. Neu os nad ych chi'n astudio eich cwrs chi trwy gyfrwng yn Gymraeg, mae'r Gymdeithas Gymraeg na iddo chi hefyd, fel does dim rhaid bod chi'n astudio trwy gyfrwng Gymraeg a i cael gwerthoedd mas o'r Gymdeithas Gymraeg. Fi mynd i ddangos ffilm bach iddo chi nawr amdano enghreifftiau o'r Gymdeithas Gymraeg yn y Drindod Dewi Sant. ond fi'n siŵr bydd cymdeithasau tebyg iawn a gweithgareddau tebyg iawn yn mynd ymlaen yn y prifysgolion eraill hefyd. Dim ond fel snapshot bach o bywyd Cymraeg yn y brifysgol oedd hwnna. Ond ie, mae'n digon o hwyl ysbri i gael iddo chi. So ie, newch siŵr bod chi'n edrych i weld beth mae'r Gymdeithas Gymraeg yn gallu cynnig iddo chi. Ac yn olaf, fi moyn siarad amdano eich dyfodol chi ar ôl fod yn y brifysgol a sy'n mae'r iaith Gymraeg yn gallu helpu chi ar ôl fod yn y brifysgol. So mae astudio trwy gyfrwng Gymraeg yn y brifysgol yn rhoi sylfaen ardderchog i'ch gyrfa chi. Mae angen pobl dwyieithog mewn pob mathau o swyddi, so mae'n bwysig bod chi yn cofio yna a gweld iaith Gymraeg fel sgil ychwanegol chi'n gallu rhoi ar eich CVs chi bydd cyflogwyr yn edrych amdano ac yn gwerthfawrogi. Mae gofyn mawr yn bobl ifanc y proffesiynol sy'n gallu gwynebu drwy gyfrwng y ddwy iaith, a hefyd mae cyflogau swyddi dwyieithog gallu fod yn uwch na beth yw rhai sydd ddim yn ddwyieithog, so mae hwnna'n bonus bach ychwanegol hefyd. So cofiwch i feddwl am na, a os ydych chi gallu defnyddio'ch tair mlynedd neu mwy yn y brifysgol i jyst cael bach mwy o hyder yn yr iaith Gymraeg neu datblygu'ch sgiliau chi, mae hwnna'n syniad perffaith i wneud ar hyn o bryd. Byddwn ni'n gweud hefyd, edrychwch mewn i tystysgrif sgiliau iaith. So, i ni Prifysgol yng Nghymru yn cynnig tystysgrif sgiliau iaith i myfyrwyr sy'n dangos bod gyda chi'r gallu i weithio drwy gyfrwng y Gymraeg. So, mae hwnna'n rhywbeth i'w fanteisio arno. A hefyd, mae'n bwysig hefyd i gofio bod Llywodraeth Cymru yn gobeithio cael miliwn o siaradwyr Cymraeg erbyn y flwyddyn 2050. Sydd yn golygu bod lot mwy o gyfleoedd mwyn defnyddio'r Gymraeg allan yna, a hefyd mae hwnna'n golygu mwy o swyddi trwy gyfrwng Gymraeg. So, dim ots beth yw eich gallu chi trwy gyfrwng Gymraeg, mae hwn yn gyfle gret iddo chi i datblygu sgiliau ychwanegol yn yr iaith. Fi'n ffodus iawn o wedi cael fy addysgu trwy gyfrwng Gymraeg, a mae wedi helpu fi lot yn fy mywyd i. Mae lot o swyddi fi wedi cael wedi gofyn bod yn Gymraeg yn hanfodol. Am iaith Gymraeg wedi mynd â fi i lot o lefydd gwahanol ac amrywiol ac wedi bod yn lot o hwyl. O'n i'n gobeithio cael myfyrwraig yma heddi i siarad gyda chi. Oedd Fion yn gweithio, so ni wedi gofyn Fion i wneud ffilm bach cloi jyst i siarad am ei profiadau hi.
Helo, fy enw yw Fion a dwi'n astudio BA addysg gynradd gyda SAC trwy gyfrwng y Gymraeg. A mae astudio trwy gyfrwng y Gymraeg wedi darparu nifer o gyfleoedd i mi, enghraifft y cyfle i gweithio ac ymweld â ysgolion Cymraeg sy'n gwych achos dwi'n eisiau bod yn athrawes. Yn ogystal â hyn, dwi wedi cael y cyfle i ymuno â Gymdeithas Cymraeg, felly cymdeithasu yn y Gymraeg, mynd ar tripiau, enghraifft i Rhyngol yn Aberystwyth ac i Ddilyn. A hefyd, oedd y cyfle dy fi i cymryd rôl fel intern i hybu'r iaith Gymraeg yn y brifysgol, a dwi wedi cael nifer o gyfleoedd o glanhau hynny enghraifft cyfweliadau radio, siarad a gweithio dy nifer o staff yn y brifysgol a siarad â ysgolion cynradd ac uwchradd. Felly, dwi'n dweud wrth unrhyw un sy'n meddwl am astudio trwy cyfrwng yn Gymraeg i mynd amdani achos mae fe'n gwych.
Iawn, felly os chi moyn mwy o wybodaeth am astudio trwy gyfrwng Gymraeg, cofiwch i gysylltu gyda ni yn y prifysgolion. Allwch chi gysylltu gyda ni yn y Drindod Dewi Sant ar ein gwefan ni neu trwy llinellau ffôn clirio yn yr wythnos nesaf i weld pa gyrsydd sydd ar gael. Ond hefyd yn yr prifysgolion eraill sydd wedi cymryd rhan heno a Prifysgolion Cymru, gallwch chi wneud yr un peth wedyn i ffindio mas pwy gyrsydd sydd ar gael trwy gyfrwng Gymraeg a pa gefnogaeth sydd ar gael iddoch chi os ych chi angen. Diolch yn fawr iawn iddoch chi am ymuno gyda ni heno. Os chi am unrhyw fwy o wybodaeth, cofiwch chi gysylltu gyda ni. On behalf of everybody who has taken part tonight, I'd like to thank you for listening. And I hope you found the sessions really useful. And if you need any further information, please do get in touch with us.